Te Takahanga a Whaita Mā. This is the story of the mokopuna of Raukawa and their quest to secure land and resources. Now, like most oral histories, there are variations to kōrero, and this is but one of those variations as is described by Raukawa kaumātua and historian Nigel Te Heko following his research during the treaty settlement process. Now, following the arrival of Mahi Nārangi e Rangiatea Pā, Raukawa would grow into an adult. He would become a political leader in the takewainga, or joiner of people. He would eventually marry Tūrongohi, and together the pair would have 4 children, Rereahu, Whakatere, Kurawari and Takihiku. And it is the prowess of their children they would set the base for Raukawa in the Waikato region. Whaita, the grandson of Raukawa and son of Kurawari, was a renowned warlord who lived in numerous places, including Whakapirimata Pā, located in the township now known as Kihikihi. Whaita became aware of the prolific bird life in and around the southern Waikato region and grew envious of the inhabitants in that area, the Ngāti Kahupungapunga. The Kahupungapunga occupied an area from Maunga Tautari in the north to Taupō in the south, Te Kaukao Pātetere in the east, and toward Wharepuhunga in the west. Whaita longed to gain access to these places and their resources, and so he arranged a marriage for his sister Koroukore, or Koroukore, to marry a Kahupungapunga chief, Pūrākau. She would move into the South Waikato area to be with him and his people. During their time together, the Ngāti Kahupungapunga grew to dislike Koroukore. She would make demands of the Kahupungapunga, including sending large amounts of their harvest back to Whaita and their people. Now one night an argument broke out between Pūrākau and Koroukore, and she was killed by his hands, with her body being burnt. Her mokai, or servant Ruru, discovered what had transpired and immediately returned back to her people. It wasn't long after Ruru's escape that he heard the footsteps of the pursuing Kahupungapunga. Ruru would take refuge in a place just west of the Oraka stream. Here he would wait until the pursuers had passed. He then came out of the hiding place, and that place would become known as Puta a Ruru in recognition of this event. Puta meaning to come out of, and Ruru, the name of the mokai, the area now more commonly referred to as Putaruru. Ruru would eventually make his way back to Koroukore's people and alert them of what had taken place. Whaita raised a tauwā, or war party, alongside his cousins Wairangi, Tamatehura, Upokoiti, Ngakuhuia and Pipito. The tauwā would march and first attack Te Horanga Pā. From this point, the tauwā would move at a pace and attack all Kahupungapunga Pā within the area. The strategy, based around speed, they would throw all their energies at Pā in order to seize it before moving quickly to the next Pā. The hope being that the defenders would not have enough time to gather their forces before being attacked. The next Pā attacked was Arowhena. From here, the tauwā would split into 2 parties, with Whaita, Tamatehura and Pipito leading one group north to attack the Kahupungapunga at Te Anakai Tangata. From Te Anakai Tangata, they march along a track that would become known as Te Ara o Whaita, or Whaita's track, down along Maunga Tautari, where they would meet their whanaunga, the Ngāti Tukurehe. They too would raise up a tauwā and take up the call for arms, attacking Pā in the northern Pātetere region. While this was taking place, Whaita and his ope would cross over the Waikato River and move up the eastern banks of the river until they reached the heavily occupied area of Te Wāotu. Here they would attack a cluster of Pā Puketotara, Hokio, Pā Waiti and Motu Kakapo. Following the taking of Motu Kakapo, the Pā would become known as Piro Nui. This was based off the piro, or stench, left behind as the tauwā moved at such a speed, victims were thrown from the cliffs and left to rot. From here they continued southward, toward Korua Pā. It is around this area that Whaita, unable to move with any great speed due to a boil, decides it is best for the tauwā to advance ahead of him. Pipito would move on to Matanuku, and here he would do battle and slew the Kahupungapunga chief Tokoroa. Following this, Pipito would meet up with his cousin Wairangi at a place known as Wawa, where they take the Pā. The tauwā split again, with Pipito and Tamatehura moving toward Pātetere, and Wairangi heading south toward Ātia Muri. Pipitoa and Tamatehura would attack Apā in Te Whetū. Here the kahupungapunga would retreat and take refuge. The Tauā would continue north and joined forces with Ngāti Tūkorohe as the kahupungapunga made a hasty retreat toward Rotorua and the people of Te Arawa, seeking shelter at Ruaporoa. Te Arawa, sensing the threat posed by the Raukawa forces, came to the aid of the kahupungapunga and led a defensive strike against them. It is in this area that the rangatira Pipitoa would fall and the rangatira Tamatehura was captured. Seeing the demise of their rangatira, the spirits of the Raukawa Tauā broke and they began to retreat southward toward Horohoro. It is around Horohoro that the fleeing Tauā would come across Whaita and his ope of around 70 men. At this time, Whaita was still troubled by the boil. Seeing the fleeing Tauā and realizing the danger that faced Whaita, he instructed one of his men to kick the boil to lance it. With the boil burst, Whaita is able to move more freely again. The spot where this event takes place would become known as Te Whana a Whaita. With his movements freed, he then charges into the pursuing Te Arawa kahupungapunga forces. It is this act that would ultimately turn the tide of battle. Witnessing the heroic actions of their rangatira, the Raukawa forces regroup and follow him into the fray. The Te Arawa and kahupungapunga forces either retreat or are killed. With Te Arawa subdued, Whaita then turns his attention back to kahupungapunga. Wairangi, Ngāko Huia and Upoko Iti have been involved in their own skirmishes with the kahupungapunga. They had forced them to retreat to the Maunga Pōhaturoa. This would be the last stand for the kahupungapunga. The Raukawa Tauā would surround the Maunga, and with no food or water available to the kahupungapunga, they would eventually be killed by the waiting forces of Raukawa. It was after this event that Raukawa would finally feast on the vanquished at Ōngāroto. This effectively ended the reign of Ngāti Kahupungapunga in the Central North Island. It should not be underestimated the enormity of this military campaign. The sheer scale of the take raupatu sets these battles apart from any other. Added to this, the war strategies utilised by Whaita and his Raukawa whanaunga were well ahead of their time, with many tactics being adopted by armies during various war campaigns across the world. This take raupatu and demonstration of power would set the boundaries for the Raukawa takiwa as we know it today.